All right, so you're getting ready for a community social worker interview.
Exciting stuff.
Yeah, and we're here to dive deep into RoleCatcher's resources.
To help you just totally ace it.
We've got sample
You
questions,
got insider career tips,
and even
little sneak peek.
yeah, at how RoleCatcher's AI.
Can be like your secret weapon in crafting like the perfect responses.
So think of this deep dive.
That's your like personalized prep session, you
Yeah.
know? We're taking you beyond like the generic advice and really like into the nitty-gritty of what interviewers are looking for.
Love that. Okay, so first things first.
Yeah.
Let's just paint a clear picture of what this role actually entails.
Right.
And RoleCatcher's career guide really dives into the heart of it.
Totally. And it goes beyond just like the title, right? It's
Right.
about understanding the multifaceted nature of the job.
Okay.
You're not just a social worker. You're an advocate. You're a counselor. You're a community builder, all rolled into one.
Yeah.
You're working with diverse populations, each facing unique challenges.
Mm-hmm.
And you're helping them navigate those challenges and empower themselves.
That's a great point. Seeing the human impact behind the job description.
Exactly.
Now, before we jump into the interview questions, can we touch on the overall career landscape for a community social worker?
Oh, for sure.
RoleCatcher mentioned something about a positive employment outlook.
Absolutely. The Bureau of Labor Statistics projects a 13% growth in this field from 2019 to 2029.
Wow.
Which is much faster than average. So this tells you there's a growing demand for skilled and compassionate social workers. And I think as we go through these questions, keep that bigger picture in mind. It can help you frame your answers in a way that demonstrates your understanding of the field's importance and your commitment to it.
That's a fantastic point. Okay, are you ready to tackle some of those common interview questions from RoleCatcher's guide?
I am so ready. Let's do it.
Okay, let's dive right in. So the first question is, can you tell us about your experience working with diverse communities?
Oh, this is a good one. This is where you really get to showcase your ability to connect with people from all walks of life. It's not just about listing the communities you've worked with. It's about demonstrating your cultural competence and your understanding of the unique challenges and strengths within each community.
So how should someone approach this question without falling into the trap of generalizations?
I would say focus on specific experiences.
Okay.
Think of a project or a situation where you had to adapt your communication style, your approach, or your resources to effectively engage with a specific cultural group.
Right.
Talk about what you learned from that experience, the challenges you faced, and how you overcame them.
I like that, showing them you can navigate those nuances. Are there any potential pitfalls to watch out for?
Definitely be mindful of making assumptions or generalizations about any particular community.
Okay.
Each individual is unique, and while cultural context is important, avoid stereotyping.
That makes sense. So instead of saying I've worked with the Latinx community so I understand their needs, you'd want to say something like,
Exactly. You could say something like, in my work with a local community center, I collaborated with families from various Latin American backgrounds. I learned that effective communication involved not only being bilingual, but also understanding the different cultural norms and values within that diverse community.
That's so much more impactful because you're showing, not just telling. Now, I'm curious, how could RoleCatcher's AI help someone tailor their answer to a specific job?
Ooh, that's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
RoleCatcher's AI can analyze a job description and pinpoint the key skills they're emphasizing.
Okay.
So if a position highlights the importance of cross-cultural communication or working with immigrant populations, the AI will suggest you focus on those aspects in your answer.
That's like having a personalized interview coach in your pocket.
I know, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the next question.
Right.
How do you approach building relationships with clients?
This one's all about highlighting those interpersonal skills. Active listening, empathy, clear communication, and building a genuine connection. The interviewer wants to see that you can establish trust and create a safe, supportive environment for your clients.
So what's the best way to showcase those skills without sounding too generic?
I would say think about specific strategies you use to build rapport.
Okay.
For example, do you make a point of remembering personal details about your clients? Do you use a particular communication style that helps put people at ease? Have you developed any techniques for working with clients who might be hesitant to open up?
So giving concrete examples rather than just saying, I'm good at building relationships.
Yes, exactly. Show, don't tell.
Love it.
Share a brief anecdote that illustrates your approach. Maybe you talk about a time when you had to build trust with a particularly challenging client, or how you adapted your communication style to meet a client's specific needs.
And again, RoleCatcher's AI can help fine-tune these answers for specific job descriptions.
It can analyze the language used in the job posting and suggest ways to emphasize the skills they're looking for. It can also provide feedback on your practice responses, identifying areas where you can be more specific or impactful.
That's incredibly useful.
Yeah.
All right, let's tackle the next question, which is how do you approach conflict resolution in your work?
Ooh.
I imagine this comes up a lot in social work.
It definitely does. And the interviewer wants to see that you can handle those situations with professionalism and a focus on finding solutions.
So what's the key to answering this question effectively?
I think acknowledge the complexity of conflict resolution, especially in social work, where you're often dealing with sensitive situations and diverse perspectives. Highlight your strategies for managing conflicts, such as active listening to understand each party's perspective, focusing on common goals, and facilitating open communication.
And I imagine providing a specific example of a conflict you successfully resolved would be really impactful.
Oh, absolutely. Choose a situation that demonstrates your ability to remain calm, objective, and solution-oriented. Walk them through the steps you took to de-escalate the situation, facilitate communication, and ultimately find a resolution that addressed everyone's needs.
And what are some common pitfalls to avoid when answering this question?
Don't oversimplify the process or make it sound like conflict resolution is always easy or straightforward.
Right.
Be honest about the challenges you faced and how you've learned from those experiences. Also avoid placing blame or taking side solutions. Focus on the steps you took to find a resolution that was fair and equitable for all involved.
That's great advice. Now, before we move on, I want to touch on something RoleCatcher highlighted in their career guide about career advancement.
Oh, that's a good point.
Thinking beyond just this initial job.
Yeah, thinking long term.
Right. RoleCatcher pointed out several paths you could pursue, from leadership positions to specialized roles. Showing that you're thinking about long-term growth demonstrates your commitment to the field.
For sure.
Exactly. And speaking of growth, let's talk about question 4, which asks about experience working with vulnerable populations. This feels like a core aspect of community social work.
It absolutely is. You're working with individuals and communities who are facing significant challenges. Poverty, homelessness, disability, discrimination, trauma. The list goes on.
Yeah.
The interviewer wants to assess your empathy and your understanding of the unique needs of these populations.
So how can someone best showcase their experience in this area?
Share specific examples of how you've provided support and advocacy for vulnerable clients.
Good.
Did you help a family navigate the shelter system? Did you advocate for a child with disabilities to receive appropriate educational services? Did you connect a senior citizen with resources to combat social isolation?
So painting a picture of yourself in action, making a tangible difference.
Exactly. And again, be mindful of generalizations. Talk about the individuals you've worked with, the challenges they face, and the specific actions you took to support them.
What about potential pitfalls to watch out for?
Avoid language that might perpetuate stigma or stereotypes. For example, instead of saying the homeless, say individuals experiencing homelessness. Focus on the person, not the label.
That's a crucial point about language and respect. Okay, let's switch gears to a question that often makes people nervous. Can you describe a time when you had to make a difficult ethical decision in your work?
The ethics question. This one always gets people a little bit.
Right.
It's designed to assess your integrity, your moral compass, and your ability to navigate complex situations where there might not be an easy answer.
So how do you approach a question like this without sounding like you're reciting a textbook definition of ethics?
I would say choose a real situation that genuinely presented an ethical dilemma, something that caused you to pause and consider different perspectives, weigh potential consequences, and ultimately make a decision that aligned with your professional values.
Would you recommend sharing an example where you maybe made a mistake or faced a difficult choice with no perfect solution?
I think it can be powerful to show that you're capable of reflecting on challenging situations and learning from them. However, you don't want to choose an example that raises red flags about your judgment or competence. The key is to demonstrate your ethical decision-making process, how you weighed different factors, and what you learned from the experience.
So it's about showing that you can think critically and ethically, even in the face of ambiguity. Are there any common pitfalls to avoid when answering this question?
Definitely don't oversimplify the situation or pretend that the decision was easy.
Right.
Acknowledge the complexity and be honest about the challenges you face. Also avoid placing blame or judging others involved. Focus on your own decision-making process and what you learned.
That's great advice. Before we move on to the next question,
Mm.
I'm curious, how could someone use RoleCatcher's AI to prepare for this type of question?
Ooh, good question. RoleCatcher has a feature where you can actually practice answering interview questions through video recording.
Oh, wow.
The AI analyzes your response, providing feedback on your content, your tone, and even your body language.
Interesting.
It can help you identify areas where you might be coming across as unsure or hesitant and suggest ways to project more confidence and authenticity.
Wow. That's like having a personal interview coach analyzing your every move.
I know, it's pretty cool, right?
I bet that could be really helpful for anyone who gets nervous during interviews. Okay, let's dive into question 6. How do you approach case management in your work? This sounds like it's all about organization and efficiency.
It is, but it's also about demonstrating your client-centered approach.
Okay.
The interviewer wants to know that you can handle the administrative side of things while still prioritizing the individual needs of your clients.
So what are some key points to highlight when answering this question?
Be specific about your strategies for staying organized, prioritizing tasks, tracking progress, and ensuring that all client needs are met in a timely and efficient manner.
So instead of just saying, I'm very organized, you want...
Exactly. You could say something like, I use a combination of digital tools and traditional methods for case management. I maintain detailed case notes using a secure software program. I set reminders for follow-up appointments and deadlines, and I create individualized action plans for each client, tracking their progress and adjusting our approach as needed.
That paints a much clearer picture of your system. Are there any potential pitfalls to watch out for when answering this question?
They definitely don't focus solely on the technical aspects of case management. Remember to connect those systems back to your commitment to client-centered care.
So it's not just about checking boxes. It's about using those systems to empower your clients and support their progress.
Exactly. For example, you could talk about how you involve clients in the development of their own action plans, or how you use your case management system to advocate for their needs with other service providers.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, before we move on to the next question, I want to circle back to RoleCatcher's Career Guide. They mentioned something about the importance of continuous learning in this field, right?
They did, and it's a crucial point to highlight in your interview. Social work is a dynamic field, and it's essential to stay up to date on best practices, new research, and emerging trends.
So how can someone demonstrate that commitment to continuous learning during an interview?
Share specific examples of how you stay informed and how you've integrated new knowledge into your practice.
Okay.
Do you attend conferences or workshops? Do you read professional journals or follow thought leaders in the field? Have you pursued any additional certifications or training?
It's about showing them you're not just content with what you already know. You're actively seeking to expand your skills and knowledge base.
For sure. And as we've discussed before, RoleCatcher's AI can be a valuable tool in this regard. Their platform offers a curated selection of resources, articles, and training materials, all tailored to the specific needs of community social workers.
That's amazing. It's like having a personalized professional development library at your fingertips.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive.
We have, but we've only just scratched the surface. There are still more questions to unpack, more career insights to uncover, and even more ways that RoleCatcher's AI can help you prepare.
Don't worry, we'll be back soon with part 2, where we'll continue our journey toward interview success. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. We're diving right back into those interview questions.
Yes, we are.
To help you nail that community social worker position, are you ready to tackle some more?
Let's do it.
All right, question number 7 asks, what skills do you think are most important for a social worker to have?
Ooh, this is a good one.
This one seems pretty straightforward, but I'm guessing there's more to it than meets the eye.
Yeah, you're right. While it might seem tempting to just list off a bunch of skills, the interviewer is looking for more than a generic response, you know? They want to see that you've thought critically about the core competencies that drive effective social work practice.
So how do you go beyond a simple list and really showcase your understanding of those essential skills? I would say focus on a few key skills that you genuinely believe are paramount and provide specific examples of how you've demonstrated those skills in your past experiences.
Okay.
For instance, you could talk about the importance of empathy and how you've used it to connect with clients from diverse backgrounds or who are facing challenging circumstances.
Could you give an example of how someone might answer this question effectively?
Absolutely. Let's say you choose to focus on communication skills. You could say something like, effective communication is at the heart of social work. It's not just about conveying information. It's
Mhm.
about building rapport, active listening, understanding nonverbal cues, and adapting your communication style to meet the unique needs of each client in my previous role. I worked with a client who was nonverbal.
Okay.
I learned to communicate with them through visual aids and body language, which allowed me to build a trusting relationship and effectively advocate for their needs.
That's a great example. It not only highlights the skill, but also demonstrates your ability to apply it in a real-world situation. Now, are there any pitfalls to avoid when answering this question?
Yes. One common mistake is focusing solely on technical skills while neglecting the equally crucial soft skills.
Okay.
Things like empathy, active listening, cultural competence, and building rapport are essential for establishing trust and providing effective support.
That's a good reminder. It's the human connection that's at the heart of social work. Speaking of human connection, let's move on to question 8, which asks, can you describe a time when you had to advocate for a client's rights?
Ooh.
This sounds like it gets to the core of social work values.
It absolutely does. Advocacy is a cornerstone of social work practice. The interviewer wants to see that you understand the importance of standing up for your clients, especially those who might be marginalized or facing systemic barriers.
So how can someone effectively showcase their advocacy skills in an interview setting?
Choose a specific example that demonstrates your ability to champion for your clients' rights and bring about positive change. Okay. Don't be afraid to get into the details of the situation, the challenges you face, the actions you took, and the ultimate outcome.
Current system.
Let's say you worked with a client who was denied access to affordable housing due to a past eviction.
Okay.
You could talk about how you researched their legal rights, connected them with pro bono legal services, helped them gather necessary documentation, and ultimately advocated for them to receive fair consideration for housing.
That's a powerful example. It shows your initiative, your resourcefulness, and your commitment to fighting for social justice. What are some common pitfalls to avoid when answering this question?
One mistake is being too vague or simply saying, I advocated for my client without providing concrete examples of the steps you took and the impact you made. Another pitfall is focusing solely on individual advocacy while neglecting the importance of systemic advocacy.
That's a great point. It's about seeing the bigger picture and understanding how individual challenges are often connected to larger societal issues. Speaking of the bigger picture, I'm reminded of something RoleCatcher mentioned in their career guide about the diverse range of work environments for community social workers.
It's true, the settings can vary greatly. You might find yourself working in schools, hospitals, community centers, government agencies, nonprofit organizations, or even private practice.
That's incredible. So how can someone use that knowledge to their advantage during an interview?
It's a great opportunity to demonstrate your adaptability and your understanding of the different ways social work can be applied in various contexts. For example, if you're interviewing for a position in a school setting, you could talk about your experience working with children and families, your understanding of educational systems, and your ability to collaborate with teachers and administrators.
That's really helpful advice. It's about connecting your experience and skills to the specific needs of the organization and the population they serve. Okay, let's move on to question 9, which asks, how do you stay up to date on best practices and changes in the fields of social work? This one seems pretty straightforward, but I'm curious to hear your insights.
It might seem straightforward, but it's an opportunity to showcase your dedication to continuous learning and professional development.
Okay.
The interviewer wants to see that you're passionate about staying informed and that you're actively seeking out opportunities to expand your knowledge and refine your skills.
So what's the best way to demonstrate that commitment during an interview?
Be specific and provide concrete examples of how you stay up to date. Talk about professional journals, you read conferences, you attend workshops, you've participated in online courses you've taken, or even podcasts you listen to.
So instead of just saying, I read articles, you want to...
Exactly. You could say something like, I subscribe to the Journal of Social Work Education and make a point of reading the latest research on trauma-informed care. I also recently attended a conference on using technology to enhance client engagement, and I'm currently taking an online course on mindfulness-based interventions.
That's much more impactful because you're showing them your active engagement in professional development. What are some potential pitfalls to avoid when answering this question?
One common mistake is being too vague or simply stating that you read articles without specifying the sources or topics you focus on. Another pitfall is failing to connect your professional development to your actual practice.
So it's not just about accumulating knowledge, it's about applying it in a meaningful way to improve your skills and better serve your clients.
Absolutely. For example, you could talk about how a recent training on motivational interviewing has helped you better engage clients who are ambivalent about making changes in their lives.
That's a great example. It shows that you're not just passively absorbing information, but actively integrating it into your work. Now, before we move on to the final question, I wanted to touch on something that I found really interesting in RoleCatcher's career guide, the idea of specializing within social work. They mentioned a variety of paths, from working with specific populations to focusing on particular areas of practice.
That's a valuable point to consider, both for your career development and for your interview preparation.
Okay.
Demonstrating an understanding of these specializations shows that you're thinking critically about your career trajectory and that you're passionate about a particular area of social work.
So how can someone effectively bring this up during an interview?
If you're genuinely interested in a particular specialization, research it thoroughly and be prepared to talk about why it resonates with you and how your skills and experiences align with that area of practice.
For example.
Let's say you're drawn to working with veterans who are experiencing PTSD. You could talk about your personal connection to the military community, your understanding of the unique challenges veterans face, your training in trauma-informed care, and your desire to help them navigate the transition back to civilian life.
That's a powerful example. Shows your passion and your commitment to a specific population and area of practice, and I imagine it could also help you stand out from other candidates.
Absolutely. Employers are looking for individuals who bring not only skills and experience, but also a genuine passion for the work.
And on that note, let's wrap up part 2 of our deep dive.
We've explored some challenging interview questions, uncovered valuable career insights, and even touched on the role of technology in professional development.
But we're not done yet.
No, we're not in part 3. We'll tackle that final question, delve into some additional career considerations, and reveal the secret weapon of RoleCatcher's AI-powered interview practice feature.
Stay tuned for the exciting conclusion of our deep dive, where we'll equip you with all the tools and strategies you need to ace your interview and embark on a rewarding career as a community social worker. All right, welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into acing your community social worker interview.
I feel like we've covered so much already.
I know, right? That we've saved a really crucial topic for last.
We have. What is it?
Trauma-informed care.
Yes.
It's such a vital approach in social work today, and interviewers are going to want to see that you understand its principles and can apply them in practice.
Absolutely.
This field is all about working with people who've experienced challenges, and understanding the impact of trauma is so essential. So the last question from RoleCatcher's interview guide is, how do you approach working with clients who have experienced trauma?
This is a big one, and, it goes beyond just knowing the definition of trauma. The interviewer wants to see your sensitivity, your ability to create a safe space, and your understanding of how trauma can impact an individual's behaviors and interactions.
So how can someone answer this question in a way that shows they truly grasp those nuances?
I would say start by acknowledging the prevalence of trauma and its potential impact on various aspects of a person's life, their mental health, their relationships, their ability to trust, and so much more.
It's about recognizing that trauma isn't just like a single event. It can have long-lasting effects that shape how someone interacts with the world.
Exactly. Then describe your specific strategies for working with clients who have experienced trauma. It's about creating that safe, non-judgmental environment, using active listening skills, validating their experiences, and respecting their pace of healing.
You wouldn't want to rush into problem-solving mode without first establishing that sense of safety and trust.
Right, exactly. And remember, trauma-informed care is about empowering the client. You're not there to fix them. You're there to support them in their own healing journey.
Could you give an example of how someone might effectively answer this question?
Sure. Imagine you're working with a client who's experienced domestic violence. You could say something like, I understand that experiencing domestic violence can have a profound impact on a person's sense of safety and trust. My approach would be to prioritize creating a space where they feel heard and validated. I'd use active listening skills to understand their unique needs and experiences, and I'd work collaboratively with them to develop a plan that empowers them to regain control and move forward at their own pace.
That's such a great example. It shows empathy and understanding of the complexities of trauma and a commitment to client-centered care. Are there any pitfalls to avoid when answering this question?
Definitely one common mistake is minimizing the impact of trauma or offering simplistic solutions. Avoid language that might sound dismissive or invalidating, like just get over it or it's all in the past.
That's so important. Trauma isn't something you just get over. It requires a sensitive and informed approach.
Right. Another potential pitfall is appearing overly confident or claiming to have all the answers. Trauma-informed care is an ongoing learning process. Be open about your willingness to learn and grow and mention any specific training you've had in this area.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about being humble and recognizing that you're always learning and evolving as a practitioner.
For sure. And speaking of learning and evolving, RoleCatcher has a fantastic feature that can help you prepare for this very question. Remember their AI-powered interview practice tool.
Oh, right. The one where you record yourself answering questions and get AI feedback.
That's the one that can be incredibly valuable for practicing your responses to questions about trauma-informed care. The AI will analyze not only your words, but also your tone of voice and body language, helping you ensure you're conveying empathy and sensitivity.
That's really cool. It's like having a virtual coach who can pinpoint even the subtlest cues you might be giving off.
I know, it's pretty amazing. And speaking of additional resources, I think it's time to revisit RoleCatcher's Career Guide one last time. There's some great information in there about the job outlook and potential career paths for community social workers.
Oh, that's right. They mentioned something about a positive job outlook for this field.
They did the Bureau of Labor Statistics projects a 13% growth in employment for social workers from 2019 to 2029, much faster than the average for all occupations. This indicates a strong and growing need for skilled professionals in this field.
That's incredibly encouraging. It's good to know that there's a demand for this type of work.
Absolutely. And beyond job security, it speaks to the importance of this profession in addressing social issues and creating positive change in communities.
Absolutely. It's a career path that truly makes a difference in people's lives. And it's not just a single path. RoleCatcher highlighted the diverse range of specializations within social work.
hmm You could focus on working with specific populations like children, families, the elderly, or individuals with disabilities, or you could specialize in particular areas of practice such as mental health, substance abuse, or criminal justice.
It's amazing to see how many different directions you can take your career in this field.
It really is, and that's something to keep in mind as you go through the interview process. Think about your passions, your skills, and your long-term goals. Don't be afraid to ask questions about professional development opportunities or potential career paths within the organization.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
It's not just about landing the job. It's about finding the right fit for your aspirations.
Exactly. And on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive.
Wow, that was incredibly insightful. I feel like we've covered everything from the nuances of answering tough questions to the bigger picture of building a fulfilling career in social work.
We've explored the practicalities of interview preparation, delved into the heart of social work values, and even uncovered some secret weapons in the form of RoleCatcher's AI tools.
I'm so glad we had this chance to unpack all of this information together. I think anyone listening will feel much more confident and prepared to tackle their community's social worker interviews.
I agree. You've got this. Go out there and showcase your passion, your skills, and your commitment to making a difference.
We believe in you. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.